Well, good morning, everybody. This is Carpo. Sorry that I look like a freaking mountain man or something. I just got back from the store and it's cold outside. It's like in the 20s and I'm chilly. Can't warm up. And the reason why I went to the store was because I was going to make a video on the road. I wanted to park somewhere in a parking lot and really get this point across to where I could feel like I'm there with the camera and no distractions. But it was too cold. So I'm back here at home. But I thought this video would be, I guess, to me, in my personal opinion, one of my most important videos. If anything was important, it would be this one, because I'd like to kind of express and tie together all the rest of my videos and why I do this. And not in a cheesy sense like, oh, I want to help you guys, but I do. And it's not helping anyone that is the goal here. It is opening up different perspectives and horizons to different ways of thinking. Now, if I were to try to cover all the bases of all the things that I've found in life, I mean, it would take, well, a year's worth of ramblings on this channel. It's just pretty much what I've done. But I still can't convey some of the most important messages because they're in here. And they're not messages per se, and I'm not saying that I'm a prophet or I know anything that other people don't know. It's just the way I feel about life, my feeling on life. And a question that was proposed this morning on one of the channels I subscribe to. This guy named Gabriel, he's a pretty nice dude, and he's over in Thailand, and he's making a video from there talking about why can't we always be happy? And I don't even know why I clicked on it, because I already know the answer to that question. I mean, that's something that I've worked on all my life, you know? I mean, not all my life, I guess, but at least the last 5-10 years I've been really trying to figure out what makes people happy. Because I look at those around me who spend lifetimes trying to accumulate wealth and status, and they don't look happy. And they're not happy usually. You might find a person who has money and status who is happy, but you have to understand that that person who's happy, that money and status is not what makes them happy. It's the values and integrity they have beneath that status. Now, the question was, can we live in eternal bliss? And I've heard this proposed by many of my channels that I sub to. And, you know, the question of, can we just be eternally happy? And I personally, I find that to be the most ridiculous question that is so obvious to answer. And I don't mean people shouldn't make videos about it, because I'll probably entitle this the same thing. What I mean is that the question itself of can we always be happy, if one really thinks it through, not just says, yeah, we should, we deserve happiness, we deserve eternity. If you really think it through, you'll see that that's the natural order of things, that things ebb and flow, that there's a balance. I've tried to get this across, that you have to take the good and the bad, and people know that already. It's nothing new to people. But it becomes a very important issue when we're dealing with day-to-day truths and day-to-day ideas. Now, I wrote down a few things here that I wanted to cover in this so I didn't forget. And the big one we were talking about, one of the videos, one of my subs that or one of my channels that I sub to, one of the conversations that came up was about vampires and Anne Rice. That comes up a lot in philosophy. If you're interested in philosophical lectures, you'll hear a lot about Anne Rice and the vampires. And the reason why Anne Rice became so popular with those stories was not because she wrote about vampires. It wasn't about just vampires sucking blood. These were very, very symbolic movies that had, very symbolic books that had a lot of humanity and understanding behind why vampires would behave certain ways, more along the behavioral lines of what would an immortal person be. Now this ties into what I'm saying about happiness, because can we always be happy? The next thing that it leads to is, if we can always be happy, can we be immortal? And the question of immortality is one that I think the man is desperate to assume that his soul and his mind and his thoughts are immortal. That what you create in this small lifetime span is going to not just help the whole, but help you as an individual soul. Possible. It's possible that these souls live many lifetimes. It's possible that there's reincarnation. But in the end, eventually they have to go away. You see? Everything started from nothing and will return to nothing. I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just saying that people need to get past, no matter how many lifetimes you carry your knowledge or what you've learned, eventually it will fade. Everything falls apart, okay? So, Christians created heaven for this purpose. The idea that since we can't live forever here on earth because of all the conflicts, we will live in heaven, on a cloud, with our families, for eternity, in happiness. Now, the way this was put was, I heard someone say, I mean, exactly my deepest thoughts on this subject. I don't know how I could echo it any better, but the conditions for an acceptable life, okay? Now this is based on many years of different, not my research, many other people's research, but the ideas of what constitutes a good life, okay? And if you could always be happy, you wouldn't be able to attain the good life, because the good life relies on things like challenges, exploration, learning, failures. All of these things bring unhappiness at times. And let's just say for a moment that heaven does exist, that there really is a place with pearly gates where you go live in eternity, happily, dancing around on the clouds, whatever it may be. Now, I'm not trying to sit and insult Christians here. I'm merely posing a point that I think many Christians have not considered. What are you going to do when you get there? I mean, yeah, you're going to live in eternal happiness, but what makes happiness? Have you ever been happy without being sad first? Have you ever been happy without being neutral before you were happy? Because if you were happy all the time, it would not be called happiness. And what are you going to do up there in the clouds? Are you just going to hang out with the same family members for eternity? That would get kind of boring. What, are you going to sit around and sing hymns and songs to God and praise Jesus forever? That seems like it'd get kind of boring too. And all of a sudden you wouldn't be enjoying yourself anymore. This is the same thing with getting rich or becoming famous. You get a moment of, wow, I'm always happy. I'm always, I have everything I need, but it quickly fades. And you start to realize that there is no happiness without unhappiness, period. Because happiness is a state that defines an emotion. Without emotions, if we were always happy, there would be no emotion. We would just be in a state. And in fact, it wouldn't even be a happy state, because happiness would not exist. This is what I'm trying to say. So the whole idea is stoicism. What is a good life? Should you be a stoic individual where you don't let anything affect you? Or should you be a very emotional person where every little thing affects you? Neither. It's somewhere in the middle. It's always in the middle. And when you get right down to the root of it, it's just living a normal life. That really is the root. But to seek as much as you can to try to improve that. So, what would your conditions be for immortality? And that was back to the Anne Rice thing with the vampire. She was saying, the ways that the unhappiness that would come from that immortality, that agelessness, watching other races, other people come and go, watching fads climb and fall and climb and fall. Well, you're stuck in your old world ways. You're on a different time frame. This is where the philosophy gets really important, because if you start seeing yourselves as timeless, immortal, your lifetime becomes much longer, and everything else in human life becomes so insignificant to you. I think people are so desperate to escape this life that often they'll create their own afterlife, or their own life within this life that may or may not exist. So, is mortal life perfect? I'm starting to think so. I think that the universe has set perhaps just the right amount of years for a human to live. Perhaps just the right amount of strength and weaknesses for a human to have. Nature doesn't really make mistakes the way I see it. And I'm not here to argue that point one way or another. This is my life. This is how I feel about things. And I know others will have their own varying opinions. But I want people to really consider what immortality is, and if you would want to be immortal. Because this answers a lot about religion and religious questions. I wrote down this little saying here that I want to keep. It's mine. It's find out what you want from life, or life will find out what it wants from you. And in that sense, really question who you want to be and what you want to be and what's important to you, instead of just going along trying to attain something that you've always tried to attain. For example, if you're working hard at a career and you become spiritually inclined and you start to look and see more important things in life, and then all of a sudden you realize that all those things you wanted aren't important anymore, but you're still striving towards that goal, sometimes we need to step back and look at what we really want. Now, the reason why I brought all this up now is because I've been considering seriously lately what's important to me, okay? And there is no monetary value that is important to me. There's no gain or material thing that I want that would make me happy. I am very content with who I am and where I am, my family and my life. However, I'm not going to abandon anything that's given to me or that I can share. For example, if I were to get rich, a lot of folks would say, I don't want to be rich. I would give that up. And I thought that for a while too. But if I was rich, I would make the most of it. If I somehow come across a large portion of money, I'm going to use it to further, philosophical research and mankind's search for, I guess, altruism, right? No. No. What is altruism? No, altruism is something else I wanted to cover. The idea that humans do things for each other because it's the right thing to do. Now, I'm going to finish up on this note. I just wanted to cover the basic basis that no, you cannot be happy all the time, okay? It's just not realistic. You don't need to create an afterlife where you live in eternity happily either, because that will not make you happy. What makes people happy is change, because change allows one to become happier through larger and larger ebbs and flows of the tide. For example, the worse off you are, the better that cookie's going to taste if you're starving, right? Everything that's good comes with the bad. If you've just ate a box of cookies and then you're given a cookie, it's going to sound disgusting to you. You see what I'm saying here? These are very important points. Don't look at it as if we're just these faulty, frail little humans, and that we have these short little lives, and that we're working towards something better. Maybe this is the pinnacle. Maybe this is what nature intended. I'm not going to go as far as to say that, but altruism is the idea that we help one another on the basis that it's the right thing to do. And whether or not we do things for selfish reasons. And I covered this in a previous video, and I discussed this with a few people about whether we even do anything at all for ourselves, for others, or whether every single action is motivated by selfishness. The example would be you help an old lady across the street. Okay, so why did you do that? Because it makes you feel better knowing that you've done the right thing to help someone. If you If you see somebody who's starving and you give them some change, or somebody who's hungry on the road and you give them some change, are you doing that for them, or are you doing that for yourself? Because then you don't have to feel like they're hungry, like you feel like you've done something. Now, I'm not saying that all deeds are done for selfish reasons, but just about every study I've done on it, and I've asked people to present situations to me, like to where they were doing something truly for someone else. And usually you can trace it back to a possibility, at least, that it's a selfish notion. So the idea is there altruistic behavior? And do humans really do things for each other? And by looking at the animal kingdom, you can see animals doing what appears to be altruistic behavior. They appear to be helping one another. Animals that will throw themselves out in front of another animal that's attacking to defend the tribe, or to defend even one individual. Or the bird that calls out in the woods and sets himself in danger because the hawk is coming, and he warns all the other birds, but at the cost of himself. What is that? Okay? Now, anybody can just propose an answer off the bat, of course, but the fact is these have been philosophical debates for hundreds and hundreds of years. So this isn't something you're going to be able to find the answer to overnight. These are aspects that people have been covering for a long time. We don't know. We don't know if people really do anything for one another, or if it's just a social norm that's conditioned by us being here. In other words, humanity does what it does to further the whole, the collective. I don't have the answers to these questions, and I propose them because they're ones that have created, centuries-long debates between philosophers, and there is no straight answer to them. There is no straight answer of what is happiness, or what is eternity, or is immortality good. But the reason why I think this is one of the most important videos that I've made is because this is really down to the roots of what it means to be alive. We are all seeking happiness, okay? No matter how selfless we are, we're all seeking happiness, whether it be through helping ourselves or helping other people. Whether we find that happiness is totally dependent upon what makes us happy, right? So if having more and more makes us happy, then it's going to be harder. We're going to get to a point where we're going to hit a wall. If giving also makes us happy, we're going to get to another point where we hit a wall. You can only give so much, okay? But if just existing makes you happy, and just being part of the whole, I think that's where the roots of human behavior come to really to a head, to where we can start to understand who we are. And I'm just going to look on this piece of paper and see if there's anything else I wanted to cover, because I only wrote down a few things. Speaking about immortality and heaven and eternal bliss, intrinsic, instrumental value. That's the last thing I wanted to cover, was intrinsic and instrumental values of things. And value is something I haven't covered yet in this video, but I intended to. What is value? First off, no, value is not something that is considered monetary. Value in the philosophical sense is something that helps life along, okay? A value. Now there's intrinsic value, which is the natural value of something. There's instrumental value. Okay, now money is a perfect example, and this is why I wanted to finish with the money. Money seems to be what we think buys us happiness, because money can get us the things that we want, the things that we think we need, which in a lot of cases is true. It has no intrinsic value, okay? Intrinsic value is value in the item itself, okay? You may have intrinsic value in good pair. Well, I'm not even going to go that far as to say clothing, but the intrinsic value of something is the value that it's worth directly to you. The value of money is instrumental, meaning that you can't eat money, you can't do anything with money. But people tend to say that money's worthless. Money's just paper. I can't believe people want money and people earn money. Why are people so obsessed with money? Well, Well, it's a stupid question to ask, really. I mean, if you're going to make an entire, like, lecture or debate based on the fact that money it means nothing, you have to understand the idea behind it. It's instrumental in the sense that it gets you things that are values, things that you do value intrinsically, okay? Money itself, yes, it's worthless. We all know that. Nobody thinks they can eat paper. And people don't have to point this out, trying to be all, oh, look at, you can't eat paper. Ha ha. Yeah, of course, we know that. But it has instrumental value in getting us the things that help us to survive. So money itself, no, it's valueless. But we've created value for it because it's a platform in order to get things that we do need. And I don't really know how to word that, because it's what I've seen as the silliness behind it, the little puns and the sarcasm and stuff that people have. Like lots of videos, and there's lots of people out there making videos about the monetary system and fiat money, and saying, look, it's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. It is an illusion. But what isn't an illusion? I mean, really, when you come right down to it, everything's an illusion. And not in that stupid spacey sense. I just mean literally everything is really fleeting. Money is fleeting. It allows us to get other things which are fleeting. And eventually we die. And we can die with as many toys as we want. But then when our short lives come to an end, which is only short in the perspective we give it, we have to figure out what's going to happen after that. Are we going to lose everything that we've built, all of our value systems? We're going to work so hard to pass them on to our kids and then just die and be gone? And so we create eternal happiness after death in order to make ourselves feel better in this life. And I think when we finally get to the other side, whatever it may be, I don't really see it as another side or another place. I just see it as going within. We'll find out. Each one of us will find out. But we're just all in this together, people. We really are. And we have to stop casting stones at one another. We have to look at the value of the things that we want. We have to seek the truths that we know will help us. And get over this idea that happiness is something that can just be attained consistently. I mean, I don't know anybody who's happy all the time. And I don't think I ever will. And I don't think any of you do either. I think the only one who's happy all the time is the one who has trained himself to be. And I'm working on it. But one who may be happy all the time may be a mentally retarded person or handicapped, whatever you want to call them. I don't play word games. I still use the word retarded, okay? A mentally retarded person may have a happy life as long as they're fed and clothed and bathed and have people around them. They may always seem happy. I don't know what's going on inside their minds, but the more severely handicapped their mental capacity is, the happier they seem to be sometimes. And this is because they're not buying into society's game. And neither do we have to. But we still have to be part of it. We still have to work. We still have to go through the stresses and anxiousness that it takes to get to the places we want to be. Because without that, happiness would never exist. Happiness is based on confrontation, conflict, and adversity. So embrace it, all of it. And I hope everybody's having a great day. Namaste.